Welcome to Jackets TV, presented by Ohio Health. I'm Bob McElligott. Today I'm joined by Blue Jackets General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen. Jarmo, as you get ready to take a summer break, quote unquote, because I know you never do. You have cell phones now, you can't ever take a break. But it has already been a busy off season for you. And I just want to go back to a couple of weeks ago when, first of all, you lost William Carlson in the expansion draft, which I'm sure hurt. That was a guy that you really wanted and got from the Anaheim Ducks a couple of years ago. Then the very next day, you pulled off a really big trade, sending Brandon Saad back to the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for Artemi Panarin. I want to talk about those two guys to begin with. You only had Brandon Saad for 2 years. At what point were you looking at that and said, you know what, maybe the best fit is for him to go back there, and this is a guy we could really use?
Well, it wasn't so much about that. It was more about us needing a game breaker type of player, a scorer, a guy who's a power play specialist, a guy who can win you the tight games. And Brandon Saad's a good goal scorer too, but Artemi Panarin in his 2 years in the NHL has scored over 30 goals both years, and he's one explosive player, one of the most explosive players in the league, and definitely very strong in the power play. That's one of his biggest strengths. Great shooter, a great one-timer, but he's also got that one-on-one skill that we were looking for, sort of to create offense out of that one-on-one skill that creates those odd man situations, and he will be an exciting player for us.
And when you talk about him on the power play was so important for this team last year, the first half to 3/4 of the season. I mean, it was rolling early. It was number one for a long time, and you won a lot of games that way. And when it cooled off, the team kind of cooled off too. So are you hoping this is a guy that can keep that power play hot all year?
Absolutely. I think that once teams start taking notice on your power play like they did on ours, we were number one power play in the league. Like you said, they start paying a lot more attention to how we do it and find ways to stop it. So I think that's what happened to us a little bit towards the end of the year. You have to be creative, but at the same time, keeping it simple too, to your strength. We have a good power play unit. We have a lot of good ingredients to that. You know, first of all, it starts from Zach Werenski moving the puck across the blue line to Seth Jones in the other unit. Those two guys are the keys to the success of the power play. But when you add a guy who really has that one-timer shot and the ability to put the puck in the net, I think it makes the power play a lot more dangerous.
You know, a lot of the things I read after that trade were there are always the people that say, how is a player like this going to perform under John Tortorella? He's the coach of the year. He's your coach. And I think he gets a bad rap sometimes for, you know, you have to play it a certain way and that's the only way. I've seen him as being a guy that is okay with creativity as long as it's going to produce. That's what he did with the defense last year. Do you expect him to let Artemi just produce?
I think he's got a great feel for what each player is all about. And the only thing that really gets under his skin if you don't want to work hard. And that should be the basic requirement from every player that ever wants to put the Blue Jacket jersey on. If you don't want to work hard, we don't want you as a Blue Jacket. And that's John Tortorella does not like players who don't work hard or compete. And if you're lacking those qualities, you know, it might not just be John Tortorella that's upset with you. It could go a little further than that. But I think that he recognizes the strengths in players. He's very good evaluator that way and lets guys play to their strengths and become successful because they are allowed to do that. And I think he's got a great feel as a coach for that.
Another piece to that trade was Anton Forsberg went to the Chicago Blackhawks. You get back Tyler Motte. This is a guy that I know that you like a lot. You got to see him play in Michigan when he was Zach Werenski's teammate in college. What was it about him that you definitely had to have him as part of this deal?
Well, our scouting staff identified him as one of the guys that we wanted back, and Forsberg was obviously an important part of our organization and a goalie that many teams were asking about. And I think he will be a National Hockey League goaltender next year with Chicago Blackhawks. Maybe not number one, but number two, that he's got a good chance of doing that. So we needed a significant piece back, and Tyler Motte's a player that we've seen a lot. We are very familiar with his ability and potential. I talked about this before, that we kind of got lucky to see him a lot because Zach Werenski played on the same team in Michigan, and watching Zach Werenski almost every game, either by our scouts or our development coaches, we got to see Tyler Motte a lot. And I went to see Zach Werenski myself several times in that line with Tyler Motte and Kyle Connor and Comfer was probably the best line in college hockey that year. I think, you know, as far as the points, I don't remember exactly how many points as a line they got, but they all got, I think, above 60 points that year, and were probably the most dynamic line in the NCAA.
To go back to the expansion draft, you know, I mentioned earlier you lost William Carlson, but you did a really good job to be able to keep Jack Johnson, Josh Anderson, Jonas Korpisalo, which obviously is huge to have as a backup to Sergei Bobrovsky. How pleased were you with, even though it was an expensive deal, that you had to give up a first-round pick, and you got David Clarkson's contract off your ledger, and Vegas took them. Were you happy with the entire end result of that?
Yeah, and it gave us the certainty early on already that we needed, because you lose one player, and if you only had one player to lose, maybe you could make a trade for futures and it wouldn't hurt your team badly. But we had three players that were all, we felt that were too valuable to lose in the expansion draft, and we can't just trade three players away and get rid of the problem that way. It would have been too much of a breaking down our team. So we had to make this deal. We felt that we had to make the deal to make it work for us and get the certainty early on that we had the qualifiers for each area, for defensemen, for forwards, and goaltending, and so forth. And as hard as it was to lose William Carlson, who was a good player and will be a good player in the National Hockey League for a while, we got to keep those pieces that we felt that were really important for our future and too valuable to lose.
Another change that you made was buying out Scott Hartnell the last 2 years of his contract. I'm sure that's not an easy thing for you to do. I mean, you got Scott Hartnell from the Philadelphia Flyers. He's been a big part of the turnaround here in the change, but it really is a young man's league, and you have a lot of young guys pushing. And at what point did you know that this was a decision you were going to have to make, and this was the news you were going to have to deliver?
Yeah, those are hard decisions, and he's a well-liked guy, and he's a really good teammate and a good guy, and we wish him nothing but the best in the future. But it was just one of those situations that where his contract had 2 years left, and with significant dollars, and for our budget and for our cap situation, and he was playing limited minutes at the end here, and so we had to make that decision to make some room for other decisions to come in the cap and the cap room involved with that. And also, like you said, we have some young players pushing that need that room and need that opportunity to grab a spot next year in the lineup. There
was some speculation that on July 1st, when free agency opened, the teams may go absolutely wild and throw out a lot of money. There were a lot of guys that moved from one team to another team, and there was some money thrown around. But in your opinion, as being one of the guys that's has some money that maybe you will throw around at some point, did you think teams were fairly conservative or did a pretty good job with the contracts they dished out?
Well, I think a lot of teams have found out that the July 1 is not necessarily the key to success, where you grab the highest or most sought after free agent and expect him to change your team around. We believe in drafting and developing. We always talk about that and try to be cautious. And there's always going to be a perfect opportunity at some point where you can add the free agent piece that you think that is missing from your lineup, and it fits perfectly. But like I said, we believe in the other route more, and we want to stick to that strategy, that philosophy, and keep drafting and developing players, and then that way they grow up to be Blue Jackets.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about you trying to add another piece via a trade, and there are rumors all over the place. You haven't done anything to this point. How much do people on the outside get edgy about it, and you just play the calm guy that you always seem to be, just waiting for the right time?
Well, they just see the end result. They don't see the stuff that's going on below the surface before that pops up into the reality, if it does. But I never commented on contract talks or negotiations or negotiations with the other team. But I always say that we're always looking for ways to get better, and one way is to make a trade, and other ways to sign a free agent, but the best way is to draft and develop.
And as you said earlier, July 1st is not the be-all, end-all day, and last I checked, the trade deadline doesn't come until like March, so you have plenty of time to figure things out.
Yeah, we have lots of time left.
And you know your own team the best. And you've got a guy that you drafted 3rd overall last year that just was here last week for development camp, and Pierre-Luc Dubois. How much has he changed from last year when he was in here? How much bigger has he gotten? How much better has he gotten? What changes have you seen in him?
I don't know if he can get much bigger anymore. He's such a big kid. He's 215 pounds solid, and he's physically for sure ready to play in the National Hockey League. And I was really pleased with his development this year. At the end of the year in the playoffs, he was very good, very solid, and looked like a man amongst boys there in the Quebec League playoffs in the games that I watched. He's going to have a great opportunity here. There's a hole left by William Carlson there in the middle of the ice. It could be filled by Pierre-Luc, could be filled by Boone Jenner, could be filled by Nick Foligno, who plays center. And there are other options too that we're going to look at, like we just mentioned. It could be a trade, could be a free agent signing. We'll look at every option, but we feel also that those three options from within are going to be great options for us, and it's going to be up for grabs who wants it, who will handle it the best, and what fits best in our lineup, and the way the combinations work for Coach Tortorella, obviously. So Pierre-Luc, he's going to have a great opportunity here, and we believe in him. We think he's a great prospect, and time will tell where he fits.
How much of a luxury is it that you can still bring him along slowly, whether he comes here and maybe starts in a third-line capacity instead of a first line? I think people, they look where you get drafted and automatically say, well, you've got to do this with him, you've got to do that with him. But you can bring him along. If he's not ready, you could go back to junior because you have that depth right now. How nice is that for you?
Well, it's great, and I always say this, that the player's play will tell us where he belongs and what the best place for him is to develop and succeed. You know, you can't put a player into a place where he's unable to succeed. That'll just ruin his confidence and development, and that's our job, to make sure that we evaluate the players and put them into the proper role and proper situation, proper opportunity to develop and prosper. So I'm anxiously looking forward towards the training camp, first Traverse City, and then the main camp, to see where our team's at. And we expect big development from guys like Pierre-Luc, Oliver Bjorkstrand. Boone Jenner had a bit of a slow start last year. He finished strong, so we believe he'll have a great year for us next year. I don't see any reason why Cam Atkinson can't keep getting better. He's been getting better every year. Josh Anderson, 17 goals as a rookie in the league, all 5-on-5 goals too. So there's a lot of room for improvement there as well. So I'm excited about the potential of our team and the individuals, and I think the biggest improvement again on our team will come from within.
Finally, this season is so long and things are so busy. Even after a playoff run, you're still busy with things going on through July the 1st. And then all of a sudden, there seems like there comes a day in July and everything just goes dark and it goes quiet. And that's when people like you finally get a chance to step away from the game. Is there some unwritten rule amongst general managers that, hey, from this day to this day, we're just not going to make any deals. We're just going to we're going to get our downtime? Because it's funny to me how fast it just goes completely quiet and then it fires right back up again. But it is time well needed, a break to kind of get away and get your own thoughts in order.
Yeah, I wish I could get rid of that phone that you mentioned early in this interview, but I don't think I have that luxury. But yeah, July is probably the slowest month, and then we start playing again in August. The World Cup Under 18 is an exciting tournament that I always go to every year in the beginning of August in Slovakia and Czech Republic, and you'll see the draft class of 2018, all the best players of the world will be there, and we'll see what the draft 2018 is all about. So pretty soon the hockey season's here again, and gotta recharge the battery before that.
And a chance to take the family back to Finland before school starts again?
Yeah, my family's been gone for a couple of weeks already, so I've been here by myself and with no life except work. But pretty soon I'll hopefully reunite with him.
Well, Jarmo, thank you very much for doing this. I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer. If you get busy, that'll be a good thing for all of us, I'm sure. But congratulations on the work already done, and enjoy.
Thank you.
That's Blue Jackets General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen. And I'm Bob McElligott on Jackets TV, presented by Ohio Health.